Right now, somewhere in this country, there's a bloke sitting on one unit in Logan stressing about the quarterly strata bill and pulling in 400 and something bucks a week. And about an hour up the road, there's another Aussie who owns 12 properties worth over $10 million and hasn't looked at a rental listing in years. Same country, same tax system, same word on both their licenses, landlord. But mate, they are not living the same life. Different problems. Different tax strategies, different levels of freedom entirely. Today, I'm mapping out every single level of property investing in Australia, from your very first accidental rental right through to the top 0.07% who most people will never even meet. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly where you sit right now and, more importantly, what it actually takes to move up a level. Quick bit of context before we dive in, because 2026 has been an absolute cracker of a year if you're into this stuff. The Reserve Bank's been sitting on a cash rate of 4.35% since June, after 3 separate hikes earlier in the year knocked buyer confidence around. Sydney and Melbourne have actually started cooling off for the first time in ages, while Perth and Brisbane are still running red hot. And in May, the federal government dropped the biggest shake-up to negative gearing this country has seen in a generation, one that's already changing how serious investors are playing the game. I'll unpack exactly what that means at the level where it starts to bite. Right, let's start at the bottom. Level 1, the accidental landlord. This is where almost every Australian investor begins, and most of them didn't even plan it. Say you bought a 2-bedroom unit in Geelong for $480,000 back in 2019. Life happened. New job, new relationship, whatever it was. And instead of selling up, you just kept it. Rented it out almost by accident. Now you're collecting somewhere around $460 a week. Your property manager takes 7% off the top. Strata's costing you close to $4,000 a year. Landlord insurance, maybe $1,400. And your mortgage is still chewing through most of what's left. After everything, you could be forking out 60 to 90 bucks a week out of your own pocket just to hold on to it. That's negative gearing. You're technically running a loss on paper, and that loss shaves down your taxable income. If you're on 90 odd grand a year, that could mean an extra $2,000 to $2,500 back at tax time. Now, here's the update every single person watching needs to hear, because it changes the whole game from here on. The May 2026 federal budget confirmed that negative gearing on established homes is being abolished, but only for properties bought after 7:30 p.m. on the 12th of May 2026. If you already owned your place before that moment, you're grandfathered in. Nothing changes for you. But anyone buying an established property from here on won't be able to offset rental losses against their salary anymore, only against other rental income or a future capital gain. New builds, though, fully exempt, which is exactly why you're about to see smart money sprinting toward brand new stock. Level 2, the intentional investor. This is where it stops being an accident. You've watched that Geelong unit climb $130,000 in value and the penny drops. That equity sitting there can become a deposit on property number 2. So you go to the bank, pull out most of that uplift and buy something on purpose, maybe a $620,000 house in Adelaide or a $480,000 townhouse out in regional Queensland. Now you're thinking in yield, not just vibes. That Adelaide place might pull somewhere around 3.7 to 4% gross. The regional Queensland one could push 5, even 6%, depending on the pocket you're in. Brisbane itself has gone berserk this year, up over 17% annually, and now sitting above $1.08 million for a median house, which has actually compressed city yields even further. You start hearing about depreciation schedules, how a quantity surveyor can dig up 8 to 12 grand a year in paper deductions on something newer. And this is precisely why new builds matter so much more right now than they did 12 months ago, because they sit outside the 2027 negative gearing changes entirely. You're probably still negatively geared overall, but the gap's closing. You've got a spreadsheet now, a separate account just for rent. Congratulations, you're officially into property. Level 3, the portfolio builder. Now it's getting serious, 3 to 5 properties deep. You've learned to structure your loans properly, standalone securities instead of cross-collateralizing everything, so one dud property doesn't drag the rest of your portfolio down with it. You're probably running a mix, one or two negatively geared growth plays in Sydney or Brisbane, balanced against one or two positively geared regionals pulling yields above 6% to cover the shortfall. Portfolio value all up. Call it $3 to $4 million. Gross rent across everything might land somewhere between $2,500 and $3,000 a week. But holding costs, mortgages, insurance, rates, maintenance, management fees, eat a serious chunk of that. Quick one. Drop your level in the comments right now. Doesn't matter if it's zero and you're still scraping together a deposit. I genuinely want to see where this community actually sits. All right, keep going. The national median dwelling value is sitting just under $920,000 as things stand. Though that headline number hides a two-speed market, Sydney's cracked $1.3 million, while Perth and Brisbane keep sprinting, and Melbourne sits closer to $800,000 to $26,000. Even a modest 3-property portfolio is now carrying some genuinely serious debt. By this level, you've almost certainly got a mortgage broker who specialises in investors and an accountant who actually understands property. Because banks assess your serviceability completely differently once you've got 3 mortgages running. Higher income, lower personal debt, strong rental appraisals, or the lending just stops. Level 4, the professional landlord, 6 to 10 properties, fewer than 1 in 100 Australian investors ever get here. Property's no longer a side hustle at this point. It's the actual engine of your wealth. Portfolio worth $6 to $10 million. You're pulling in $5 to $8 grand a week gross, and after every expense, netting somewhere between $1,500 and $2,500 a week in real cash flow, depending on how much equity you've clawed back and how many properties are paid down. You've refinanced more than once. You know how to run offset accounts properly. You might have a self-managed super fund holding a property or two. And land tax has become a genuine line item. The threshold and the rate both shift depending which state you're in, and it can easily run you tens of thousands a year just for the privilege of holding land. At this level, you're choosing your next purchase almost purely on tax, efficiency, and yield. Perth remains one of the strongest yielding capitals for houses right now. The national average gross rental yields sitting around the mid-4% mark. You're placing properties like pieces on a chessboard. You've stopped scrolling listings and started reading full market reports instead. Level 5, the property mogul. More than 10 properties. An almost impossibly small slice of the population. And the ones who make it here are overwhelmingly over 50 because this level takes decades, not luck. By now you've likely got a dedicated accountant, a solicitor, a buyer's agent, maybe a property manager on retainer. Portfolio worth $15 million or more. You're thinking in subdivisions, dual occupancies, granny flats bolted onto existing blocks for an extra few $100 a week each. You're borrowing through commercial lending channels instead of standard home loans. Ownership spread across trusts, companies, SMSFs, built for tax efficiency and estate planning as much as growth. And with the 2027 negative gearing changes bearing down, investors at this level are already restructuring hard, leaning into new builds, commercial property, and build-to-rent developments, all of which stay exempt from the new rules. But here's the bit nobody shows you in the highlight reel. The admin is relentless. Insurance claims, council compliance, tenant disputes. A hot water system dying in Rockingham the same week a tenant walks out in Toowoomba right before Christmas. This wealth is completely real, but it is not passive. Not at this level. You either build a team around you or you burn out trying to do it solo. So, where did you land? Honestly, the gap between level 1 and level 5 isn't really about luck or some secret only rich people know. It's about which decisions you actually make with the equity sitting under your nose right now and whether you move before the rules change again. If this helped you figure out exactly where you stand and where you could actually go next, do me a favour and smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.